Welcome back, everyone, to Ladder League Recaps. This is the Week 4 recap and the Week 5 predictions, and I'm joined by a special guest, Wytew. Welcome, Wytew.
Thank you. Yeah. You've
And we,
not seen this face?
yeah, this is actually like a face reveal on the recaps here. Maybe even a voice reveal for some people as well.
Yes, yeah. Finally putting a face and a voice to the name.
And I'm happy to have you on because we had an exciting week in Week 4, and I think we're just gonna jump straight into the recap here, starting with Rung One. It was actually like such a big matchup. ZAC, Jared Bricko, three huge names matching up in Week 1. And this race, unfortunately, didn't quite deliver like as the name value says it would. ZAC came out with not as hot as you would think. Another God fraud mistake, obviously early in the race with a lap one miss, and then I believe Bricko missed lap three, so it gave Jared like a pretty early lead. And I guess for some context, actually, Jared pre-recorded this match. There were some internet issues the day of, so he ended up pre-recording. It actually crashed, so and we'll touch on it a little bit later. But yeah, he crashes in Princess, but it gets timed out, right? So then you end up having like a run where he knows it's timed out, but his mental's all gone. But we'll touch on that in a second. Because ZAC with the rough start, Burko with the rough start, Jared is cruising, right? Off to a good episode 1, good episode 2. I think like Jared normally does. Jared's, I'm in my opinion, the best early game player of the lot. And ZAC was slowly crawling back. Well, Burko, I think in this race, I mean, you can see his final time, just really never got a grip of things. He was struggling in 4, missing grip more skip, and then like popping in bounds, like the worst kind of miss. And then obviously a Jabba's disaster, followed by a Bespin panel soft lock. Just so many bad factors contributing to this 223. But in terms of the race for first, ZAC and Jared were battling pretty well up until episode 6. ZAC actually flipped the lead in 4. Jared having some errors in 4. And I like that crash could have also completely thrown off the mental. I think Spaceport was the biggest error of the lot in 4, but ZAC flips the lead, and Jared just has a bad 6, and ZAC is cruising. After the bad start, he cruises on to quite an easy win. And if I need to double check, but I believe this is his fastest. Yeah, it is his fastest time of the tournament here with a 2:18:10. So a solid race for ZAC. He did what he needed to do to qualify. I think he could have done a lot better. I think in his brain he knows he could have done a lot better, but I'm sure he's happy with the 2:18:10 and the qualification. And Jared with another time that it's like, this is actually the first one that's not like really bad, but it's also not good. So it's like right in the middle for Jared. Questionable time with the 219, but he gets the job done to get second to be in the top rung again. So maybe some questions going to the future for Jared. Personally, I'm not extremely concerned about Jared, but I think this next week, week 5, rung 1, is where he's going to have to shine because it's such an important match. And I'm sure White, we're going to talk about like later on how important like week 6, rung 1 versus week 6, rung 2 is going to be. And that just raises the stakes for all the matches this week. But yeah, Jared gonna have to prove himself that this is like he's in that 217 form, not sort of a 219 220 form, which he might not win the race with next week. And then I guess Bricko is kind of the big story here, where he just like gets another bad run in ladder league. And personally, I'm a little concerned, but then again, I know it's Bricko, and I think he's kind of shown himself to be a bit of a momentum runner in ladder league. When things haven't gone well early, he hasn't put together good runs, and when things have gone well early, he's put together absolutely phenomenal runs. In fact, the best time of the tournament. So it's really hard to judge, but it's almost, I feel like that early game is going to matter so much for Bricko, just like how it does for Jared. And I'll throw it over to you, Wytew, and I guess, what is your like general reaction to this? And like, do you think Bricko, like the Bricko performance specifically, is sort of fluky? And I guess, what do you think about Jared's performance as well?
Yeah, it's a little concerning with Bricko. 2 weeks in a row above a 220, above a 221, really. So, yeah, after the first couple of weeks where he did very, very well, 217, 218, yeah. We can chalk up week 3 to God fraud, and a little bit of that to in week 4. But yeah, I think he can still bounce back next week. But and then with Jared, yeah, he had a very good like opening pre-recording it. I don't know if because the match did get like postponed by like an hour and a half, I think,
Yeah,
so it might
yeah.
have played into like I don't know, like maybe Zach and Brick are a bit annoyed that they didn't get to start at the
Hmm.
time they wanted to. So maybe it messed with their practice. I'm not too sure. But Zach managed to get things going after episode 2. It was a little shaky up until then, but then you got into sixth gear into episode 4 where he overtook in spaceport with the Jared mishap there, and yeah. So very happy Zach qualified. Like I've been
Hmm.
predicting Zach every single week. I'm a Zach believer.
I've been a Zach believer too. I'm actually trying to think. I guess technically, no, I did. I think I picked Zach against myself as well. So yes, I picked
You still
Zach pretty
picked-
much every week as well.
yeah. So it didn't quite pay off the first 2 weeks being a Zach believer, but it's fruitful now. I'm sure he's very happy to finally get into the top 8.
Hmm.
Not exactly the seed he wanted to, but probably wanted to, but a qualification's a qualification.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he's got to be happy. But like he's not. I'm very surprised he's not put in his 217 yet. It's like several other runners have done that before
Hmm.
him, but it might be chalked down to didn't he have lots of people around his house in the last week, so he's not been able to practice. I think weren't you there
Hmm.
at times? Yeah, so that it could have been practice distraction. I don't know, but now he's finally made it. I'm sure he's very happy with that.
Yeah, and I almost think like I wonder because Zach really hasn't put up like that, like you mentioned, like that 217 or even a 216, which I know like his average is better than I think every single tournament match he's played. So it's like, yeah, which is like insane to think about. His average is like better than my PB. And I'm like, it's like, is that a little embarrassing or what? But I wonder if like I don't exactly know. Obviously, Zach might not even know exactly why he gets these like slightly worse times during the tournament. But it's like, I wonder when top 8 comes around, right? He's gonna 218 might not even cut it against some of the top guys. Like maybe like he might have a in the quarterfinals, right? It could be decent, but in like the semifinals, like he's almost scheduled. Well, actually, and we'll touch on this later. We'll talk about the top 8 bracket, but like he could be playing Dragon in the semifinals, and Dragon just like today got a 216-10. I know that wasn't probably a no reset, but Dragon's putting up insane times, and Dragon definitely has the potential to do something like really good against Zach. So I think Zach is gonna have to step it up for top 8 from like these 218s he's been getting all tournament. Um, and yeah, I guess that kind of covers that match for the most part because I think we touched on the Bricko situation where it'll be interesting next week. I think Bricko, like I think I said this for week 3 where it was like Jared and Wazip, but I think this is another week for Bricko. He's had 2 bad weeks in a row. This is his like opportunity not only to win the race but like to get a strong time and then kind of sort of say I'm back, and get another strong time, which Wazip and Jared were able to do those weeks. So we'll see with Bricko. And I think Wazip is in a similar situation this week, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I'll move on. I'll move us on to rung 2 here, which was the one I got to play in. It was myself, Laser, Wazip. Yeah, the match happened yesterday. I was almost forgetting. But I guess I can kind of give you my perspective what kind of happened in this race because I did actually look at this. Normally, I'm like, don't look at the stream ever. That's like my philosophy on the whole thing. I actually did end up checking the stream. I got spoiled in like the organizer chat. I have Discord open during it just because like if someone needs to contact me during the race, like if there's a technical issue, I want to be available. And I for some reason clicked on the organizer chat and it was like, oh, and if Senor runs away with this or something, I saw this message of like, oh, so I might be in the lead by a little bit. And then I looked at the stream and I think it was like a minute 30 ahead of Laser and then like 2.5 against ahead of Wazit going into 6 was when I looked. So I was like, okay. And then I closed it again, didn't look at it for the rest of the stream, but I kind of had a vision in my mind of like, okay, I think I just need to close this out. Um, but in terms of the race, I actually was like on I was on best split times out of I think Princess. Yeah, I think that's where it ended because I missed Trash Skip, which by the way, I'm still gonna be really upset about this. I just like dropped an input. I straight up like dropped an input. I have my controller here. I like hit a pause buffer, like your frame advance, I should say, like this, and the pause just did not go through. And I think I could blame skill. I could blame skill, but I'm too petty to do that. I think it was just a 40 hertz moment, which there is a little bit of like input delay. Also, 40 hertz lags a little bit, so I'm just gonna like blame 40 hertz instead of my skill. Even though probably the smart person would blame their skill, but I'm not. I'm gonna blame the game. But anyways, yeah, I missed Trash Skip, and that kind of threw me through a loop because I didn't have a great rebel attack. I had a really bad Javas after that, and it wasn't until Carcoon where I do my gamble disco skip where I hit that first try and everything just kind of fell back in place in the run. for a moment because I did get an Endor Gold, and then I absolutely just like ITDS was a disaster. I don't know if you got to witness that one, Y2, but that was yeah. My ITDS was slower than my Endor, which I think that is like the first time in history in any run I've ever done where my ITDS is slower than my Endor. I think 554 ITDS, 553 Endor. Um, you don't see that too often. um, but that wasn't almost, it didn't like demoralize me, and I knew I was like, okay, I'm probably like pretty close to the other runners now, or at least Laser after that mistake, because I didn't have the stream open. I'm like, all right, I gotta lock in, and I actually put together a decent enough episode 3 and a decent enough episode 5. It wasn't until Bespin where I kind of screwed up the 5, but it was enough to still win the race and get like a mid to low 219, which I'm happy about. And then in terms of Laser and Wazip, at least I know because I was like not watching the stream, but I watched back and I had kind of witnessed Wazip. His case was he was just kind of bleeding everywhere. It was like kind of just down. It was just a bad run, right? When and it happens because when you're on a bad run to start, it's really hard to get out of like that effect where you just keep losing time and time and time, and it's just over and over and over. And it was just one of those runs for Wazip. And Laser was like I actually was talking to him about the match after, where he was like Laser kept giving me opportunities, and he said he was like wasn't able to capitalize on like any of them, which it just happens on a bad run, right? 223 for Wazip. I will say he's right. I think we both witnessed it. Wazip got a 220-26 or 2026, I should say, because this year, right before this recording. So clearly, like the potential's there, and then like a 23 is just a terrible run for him. So hopefully, he's kind of had his like last little like he's had a couple blips this tournament. That's kind of his last like moment that he can have, because if he has another bad race, he's gonna be, potentially week 6 rung 2 or just out of the tournament this week. Now being in the bottom rung for the first time, and then Laser, I believe I'm like trying to even remember exactly what happened. He had a good. Everyone hit Godfraud in this race, which is like impressive on its own. I think like there's been very few races that everyone's hit Godfraud, like full Godfraud, I should say. But Laser, I think it wasn't until episode 2 where I think it was about a 30-second gap to me out of 2, which is still like reasonable. But then once it got to 4 and 6, especially 4, it started to plummet pretty quickly for Laser. And then he just wasn't really able to recover because he had a bad 4. I believe he had like, I think his 6 actually was worse than his 4. He was talking about his best or his like episodes last night to me. He was like, episode 4, I lost like a ton of time. Episode 6, I think got like a 28-minute episode 6 or something like that, which is like, you know, pretty atrocious for the level that he's used to playing at. And then his episode 5 as well, like I think his CCT, I don't know what try DB3 he got, but it was a lot. But yeah, that race ended up, the times, I think it was a little bit more entertaining than the times might say. But I think for, my own performance, I'm happy with it. It's nice just because I got 2 crappy times in a row to finally get something that's at least decent. I think could have been a lot better. Obviously, there's the ITDS stuff and, whatever other disasters happened for me. Job wasn't like DSE, but I'm happy just to get a good performance in. And then Laser and Wazip, right? I think they're both looking for a good bounce back next week. But I'll throw it over to you on this one. I guess like kind of what is your reaction to the times being put up in this race, and I guess the result as well.
Yeah, it's not quite representative of how the race was, at least up until 4, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think there was, yeah, as you said, like there was no major time losses until like I think it was Slow Force with Laser where he
Mm-hmm.
missed that, and then I think Wazip lost his helmet in Princess, like after the turnstile room. Very unfortunate. I think like he just got a random aggro. Like I don't really remember exactly why, but yeah, it's very unfortunate, and that kind of just sent you into like far in the lead,
Mm-hmm.
even with any mishaps you had. Like it was a display of like where I think everyone's skill was. Like you were like out of episode 2, you were like 40 seconds ahead. Laser was then like a minute ahead of Wazip. Like it's in the order you would kind of expect going into this.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I had to talk about that. Yeah, the Pixel Disco. Like you, you just ripped the first one.
The
Like
champion
when
strat.
exactly when the other two, I think they both missed Pixel Disco 2 or 3 times each. So it's clearly there's a better method there.
Yeah, exactly.
Evidence for yourself there. And then that ITDS that was crazy because it wasn't even just you. I think you had like 2:24 room one, and then I think Laser had at least over 2 minutes as well. Like
Yeah.
it was something like a 2:06. Like, which it felt like every time you lost some time, Laser made a similar or even worse mistake. Or not in that case, it wasn't really a mistake, but like it was
Hmm.
like just something happened where he would also lose the same amount of
Yeah.
time. And then in that same ICDS, Wazza having the complete opposite. He stole all your torpedoes from both of you. I think he got the tournament best ITDS. It was like a
Yeah.
457, I
I think
think.
that's like a top five goal in that level, by the way. Now, like that is like a top five goal in that level in ladder league.
There's like a minute difference between yours and Wazza's there, so that must have been good. Like good for the mental. Like after some not so great episodes with Wazza, but unfortunately, he didn't get to capitalize that on that further into 3 and 5. I did want to ask in Chancellor, you managed to get GDS, like
uh
you were trying to go for the like because I think you do a slightly different setup where you slam in front, pause, drop out, and then so you can switch up so you don't miss the door. Um, so you happen to get
yeah, I
GDS
can
the old way.
I can explain kind of what happened there. So what I do normally now for the ever since Ewok Skip was discovered was I use double controller for Coruscant and I play the first two levels of Chancellor with double control. I don't actually play double controller Coruscant like willingly. I do it because Chancellor Room 1, it's I want to do Ewok Skip on player 2 and on keyboard it's just the inputs are a little too like I should say not difficult, but they are kind of difficult, but it's also weird on keyboard, so it's a lot easier to do on controller. And I've played double controller in the past, so it's not like something foreign to me. And I just completely forgot to connect my controller in Coruscant. So I'm sitting there in Coruscant playing the old like keyboard controller, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about how I'm gonna do Chancellor Room 1. And I end up taking a death while I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, oh wait, I have to play Coruscant. And I got it wasn't a bad death. I think it was genuine like 5 seconds. There was like an old death spot where when we played one player Coruscant, you actually take a purposeful death to like speed up the level. But now that death spot loses like a little bit. It was basically right at that spot, so it wasn't a bad death. And then when I get to Chancellor, I was like, all right, I'm gonna slash with player 2 4, drop him out, and then switch with player 1 so I can keep doing it on controller. And then I was like, all right, slash with player 2 pause, and I'm like, oh wait, this is just the GDS for him. So I just like, okay, let's drop out and swap, and it worked out. And I was like, okay, that was very very lucky. Ultimately, I guess if you missed Ewok skip slash GDS, it doesn't lose like a ton of time, but it's a good way to start the level. So I'm happy I got lucky right in that moment. Maybe it's payback for what happened in the ITDS. So that's
Quite
that's my
possibly.
explanation there.
Yeah, it's just honestly aura farming. First frame, pause, bang, getting
Yeah.
GDS.
Actually, I lied. It's completely intentional, guys. Completely
Exactly.
intentional.
Yeah, keep it that. Whenever you get something that lucky, just yeah, I meant it. Uh, so that was great. And then yeah, further into episode 5 was a like he had some chances to catch Laser. Yeah, because Laser didn't have too great of a CCT or even Bestman, I think. But I think Wazza had such a bad DVT, he accidentally deactivated a couple of times, so it kind of killed any chances of a comeback. Yeah, and then yeah, I remember seeing in your best spin where like you had to get the helmet after door clips like several times,
Oh my
and
god, yeah.
it was certainly a thing. And I know Zach was going for like he was putting some random predictions, like it was depending on like who got the fastest of this level. And I think the last one was he did a prediction: would you beat your ladder PB? And I
Mm.
think you messing up with that helmet kind of
Oh,
screwed it for some
definitely.
people.
I
So
think
thankfully I didn't bet on that one, but for
I was
some
gonna
people there might be
say
a
I
little amount.
definitely had like an 18 BPT into best spin, and if it wasn't for all those
Yeah.
helmets and trippers, I think I got a shot off like 4 times. Like it was so bad.
I liked it with the stormtroopers, like the last one that came along. He just stood there, like just like
Yeah, he's
it
like, all
was so
right,
funny
fine,
though.
I'll finally get
I'll
rite
let
of passage.
you. But yeah, going forward, it felt a bit closer than what it in times were, and other than you, I don't think the other two would be too happy about it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, Laser, he had great first 2 weeks. He's slipped off a little bit. I know, of course, last week was God Fraud incident times two. You had to restart that twice, so that can explain that. But this was just general, yeah,
Mhm.
being slower around there. So he'll definitely want to bounce back next week. and then was with the PB today. Massive GG's there. He's finally realised his potential. I'm sure he can carry it carry it through into the next one to keep his ladder league tournament alive.
Oh, and I guess with that, yeah, we'll throw it over to you for rung 3 since we did have a Yap Fest about rung 2 there. I'll throw it over
Of
to you
course.
to rung 3, which I think was like I mentioned with rung 2. I think the times don't justify how interesting the race was, and I'll throw it over to you on like kind of what happened there.
Yeah, definitely. Like each one was 2 minutes apart. It definitely wasn't like that. I think on paper it probably looked the furthest apart. Like despite as of like only a week ago, Colton being a second ahead of WeSuper, but of course he PB'd the other day with the 218. But like Colton's not been quite on it this tournament. I feel like he's just been putting in 222s, 223s when he's definitely capable of a lot more. I think
Mm-hmm.
if he has had a couple of best spin mishaps, shall we say, so far, but yeah, he can definitely do a lot better. And then yeah, Mello, let's be honest, he wasn't ever really going to be in this race. Like there was a reason why it was 36 prediction points in the prediction tab. So yeah, but I think into episode 1, Colton he got full God Fraud, giving him a very early like lead there because Mello doesn't go for it, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
then Justin I think messed up lap 1, and then so out of episode 1, Colton was like 50 seconds ahead, which, as I'm pretty sure he's quite a momentum runner.
Yeah.
He needs he needs several splits in a row to keep going. One bad one, and then he might spiral. So that was a really good start for him if he wanted to beat Justin. So, but unfortunately, he didn't quite keep that going. BHP, I think he nearly got 440. I think because one of his torpedoes, I think he shot out of the arena, and then that means he couldn't lock on. He couldn't
I
shoot any more
forgot
torpedoes.
about
And
that. That was a
yeah,
disaster BHP.
yeah, it looked a lot better, a lot worse than it was. I think it was still like a 4-3x somewhere, like I
Mm-hmm.
4-3x. So like, yeah, it was very bad, but it's not like he
Mm-hmm.
still had the lead out of BHP. But that surely had to kill his mental a little bit there, especially with him likely watching the stream.
Oh,
He
it's not
definitely was
likely.
watching the
It's
stream.
not likely.
He definitely was. He might have been messaging in your watch party a little bit. Not too confident within there. And then on the flip side, Justin had such an incredible episode 2. I believe that was best ever episode 2 performed in a ladder league match. Well, just overall,
Yeah.
and he did that in a ladder league match. And I think he said he was only 6 seconds off of Sob in episode 2, which is crazy to play. Like you can lose 6 seconds one attempt of R4 fly if you miss that, or
Mm-hmm.
one like in first pillar in Jelly Battle. If that just doesn't go right for you, then you've already lost this like 6 seconds there. So he played very very well there. So I don't know what the gap was out of that. I think even though Colton was like 50 seconds ahead, it then flipped to like a minute behind.
Yeah.
Uh, and especially going into episode 4, Colton I think missed he missed slow force, not going to help. While Justin was still pacing, I think he was still pacing Sob out of 4-1, 4-2. I think he got ladder best in Super Plans. Um,
Oh yeah, I know he did gold, but I don't know. Yeah, it might be ladder best. I
I
don't
think it was
remember.
ladder best. Like he was still playing 6 seconds off of Sob because he was still at Sob out of Junland, so still
Mm-hmm.
playing incredible there. Until Spaceport, which I think he's already had this mistake once, a bit of a meltdown on P3 glitch, where he
Yeah.
just because he does it the other way around. He does it like calling in on player 1. I don't know if that messes things around
It
because
has to be a double keyboard thing, is what I think.
but
But
yeah,
regardless, yeah.
that's I think the second time he's done that, and he lost a bunch of time there. But Colton failing to fully capitalize on that. I think it's the first time in the tournament we got the Imperial spawn, so at the end of room 2.
Oh yeah. That's like something I completely forgot about. I remember like I was watch partying, I was just like dying laughing. I'm like, how did this happen?
I think that's the first time this season we've had that. So nice to see those Imperials make an appearance. But yeah, not fully capitalizing there. But he still, I think, gained 30 seconds on him. So bringing that down to like a minute. And then I think yeah, Colton bit of redemption on Spiderless compared to last week, where he lost a little bit of time there. He got that first try. And then out of 6, I think Colton was slowly reeling him in. Like out of Endor, of course, he got CG in first week, I think. Um, and then into episode 3, Justin had quite the meltdown in MVE. Like I think he tried it like 3 different times, and he just kept calling in at the bottom, like not out of bounds. And then, of course, had to go for the casual strat. And I don't think Colton even had that great of a Chancellor. Uh, yeah, he managed to bridge that gap to 4 seconds out of Chancellor, which, like, if you looked start of episode 4, it was a minute 30. Like, you didn't think that was going to happen, but unfortunately, Colton didn't quite manage to fully capitalize there. I think in Kashyyyk, he didn't fully kill the clone troopers, like, holding the first Wookiee captive. Like he was already trying to move before he shot the first shot, I think, with the Yoda. So he lost a bit there, and then it was the Vader drop in warp. Yeah,
Yeah.
he had to respawn at the start of the room, like, maybe twice there, and that kind of sealed the deal. I feel like with the rest of that race between them two. But then, to be fair, there was a chance of Colton closing the gap there because Justin did miss GTF, I think, a couple of times. Like he missed the setup to get out of bounds, but also while out of bounds, he didn't get a jump with Ando, so he had to do that again. And I think some people were a little skeptical on his line as well. I don't know them. I don't do GTF, so it could have had a chance there, but then Colton got an auto drop off of Chewie into Clip. So similar thing to what happened with Olive in week 2, but Colton still bricked a modified GTF with Leia instead, going out of bounds, which I think I saw ZAC saying it's a very risky one there because Lando could lose his helmet. And of course, you then lose a huge amount of time having to go all the way back. And I'm assuming the stormtroopers would probably be aggro after that as well. You have to kill them all. So that would have been quite bad, but thankfully he got lucky there and managed to stave off the Daime leapfrog, only by like 20 odd seconds. So it was a close one there. And well, I've not really been speaking about Mello because he was never really in it, and I'm sure he knew that. So there was no pressure for his match. Like he just had a run. He just had to finish his run, and in his PB, which was I think his last run, like in the tournament, he lost like a minute on lamp jump. So out of Maul, he was already minus a minute there from his PB, and I don't think it ever went below minus a minute. Like just no big mistakes at all. He just kept on plowing along and got a very nice PB, minute and a half, 2:24.25. Very, very nice one. Especially, I think, right before Ladder League, like before the LCQ, his PB was a 2:27. Like, that's big improvement in the last month. So, yeah, but rip to the runners that picked Mello for the 36 prediction points. It was quite the Hail Mary, but we all knew it wasn't quite going to pay off.
If you
But
told them that he was going to PB, I mean, I think they'd be like, "Oh, hey, maybe there's got a good shot."
There's a chance. There's a chance, but yeah, that's kind of how it went down. It was a lot closer at times, especially into episode 3, than it was looking like it was going to be. And with that, Justin did get the leapfrog over Laser from the rung above, putting him to your rung next week, which we'll talk about. So I'm sure he'll be happy there. Despite he definitely could have got a 219. I think he lost a bit of time at the end, but he's churning these 220s out. He's been quite a consistent runner since the first week. It's been a 220, a 220, and a 220. Like very very consistent there. So maybe he gets another one this next week. Maybe it goes even better. We'll see. So I want to know your thoughts on that match there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I have a lot of different reactions to this one because, like, I guess I'll start with Mello just because he kind of like wasn't real. I feel like he got a really good time and like no one saw it because everyone was so interested in the race above, and Mello really wasn't in it because he doesn't go for Godfrod, fell behind early, and just didn't have a good early game. But he's having a good run in the background, and I think it like Melo has to go down for like the best overperformance of the entire tournament because like one he shouldn't even be here, but now he's gotten two back-to-back PBs in the ladder, which is already impressive enough. And this one's like it's not like a small PB; it's like a minute 30 PB in the ladder. It's like okay, what's going on here? Will he do it again to stay alive? Who knows? But Melo's either way. I think if he goes out next week, I still think he's had an unbelievably successful ladder league. I think way over everyone's expectations. And then in terms of Colton and Justin, for Justin, it's like, right, like you mentioned, it's 220, 220, 220. But I think like this one felt, I know like week two was a really strong 220 as well, but this one felt really strong because like, right, we saw that really good gameplay in two. And one wasn't that good, but really good gameplay in two, and four started really well as well. Like there were some really good glimpses of like Justin is back at like a really high level. Like he's playing easily like those that could be like a 218, maybe even better. Like that than that. So it's like we're seeing that level from him again, which I feel like we haven't seen in a minute, and I feel like at any point he could just break out a 218, 219 in the ladder. Easily 219, I think everyone would agree, but even like a 218, I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped that. But I think we're finally like seeing breakthrough. He's been back for a few weeks now, so I think he's finally, feeling back, getting back into the flow of things. So, and he gets the leapfrog, right? So it's exciting for him. Uh, we get the Senior versus Wii Super Classic again. It's like I think 11th meeting now, of all time. So it's like we get that again. And Justin, I mean, like I know his like placement prediction under over 7.5, but and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll be over. But like right now, not only is he gonna have a chance to qualify this week, he could have three chances in a row to hit that under if he gets like second place. Because wait, right, week six, rung one, you're guaranteed to at least make it to week seven. So you have basically Justin could in theory have three qualification chances in a row. I think in my brain he is like more favored to qualify than being the wild card match now. Maybe. Actually, we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that. But like Justin's been running really well lately, and you've been really impressed. Colton though, it's like, when is he finally gonna break through? Because like we have seen him get good runs in terms of like offline or just PB attempts, right? He's getting those 219s and he gets multiple of them. And then Colton in the ladder league is like a consistent 222, 223 runner. And I feel like Wazip's almost the same way in ladder league lately, where it's like, you know, when like are they finally gonna get a run that doesn't have a huge mistake here, huge mistake there, that's losing like multiple minutes off of like three combined levels. So it's like, when are we gonna see that from Colton? And Colton kind of has barely any time to do so. I do want to touch on it I know we're gonna talk about wildcard in the future, but Colton's average right now is, not very good, and he doesn't really have time to fix it. And it's like maybe he does, but he doesn't, right? He has to just fix it now, and he's in a very tough situation next week, which we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, Colton is just waiting for like, can we see a 220 or even a 219, but more or less like a 220 out of Colton, because he's going to need to start putting up those performances if he wants to survive. And even that might not be enough against his opponents next week. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of my just general take on the match. I think it was like kind of a win-win-win match for everyone, just in the factor of Justin leapfrogged and won the match. Colton didn't get leapfrogged. I know he wanted more, so maybe that's like the least win of the entire match. But he doesn't end up getting leapfrogged, so he's able to stay above the bottom rung. And Mellowbro gets a PB, even, and I don't think Mellowbro may be expected to even get top two this race. So I feel like getting a minute 30 PB, just you have to be happy about that regardless of what happened in terms of placement in the race. But with that, I guess I'll throw it over to you for rung four, because this is another. I mean, as you can see, very interesting race because there's not even a third time posted. But yeah, I'll throw it over to you for
Yeah,
rung four here.
yeah. Another elimination round, another banger elimination round. Like all four have hit like very well, and it's the second one to finish with only two runners again. But that doesn't stop it. It's another banger one, and yeah, going into it, it was another rematch with Daime and EJP from week one. Maybe a bit of redemption. EJP, who may have wanted that. But before going into it, like last week, he probably shouldn't have been in this elimination round. Like he was so close to not making it not making it into this round. He would have gone up. but real big shame. He had to go down and then fight his way out, which, as we can see, it didn't quite go too well. Uh, but yeah, into episode 1, I think Charizite ICS miss, not a great start. Doing what I did in my elimination run. Not the only thing that we shared in our elimination rings there. But yeah, Daime and EJP both get lap 1, God Fraud, and then miss lap 3. And then Charizite actually getting both laps. Like, despite missing ICS, he then immediately came back briefly to be leading out of pod race, but it's someone's specialty level that comes after pod race. Any guesses who that is? Daime then taking the lead swiftly afterwards. What's new? He's so much better than everyone else there. And throughout that, he steadily just gained out of there up to, I think, 40 seconds through episode 2. And then Charizite, C3PO escort room in Droid Factory, I think he fell into the lava. Thankfully, it wasn't with C3PO. That would have been a lot worse. He could still jump over. But it's just already a couple of things gone wrong. Can't be good for the mental, especially for a momentum runner like Charizite. And then straight afterwards, well, not straight afterwards, a couple of levels after, missed Dooku skip. And I think that kind of signaled the beginning of the end for his tournament, really. Because before that, he was, I think he was slightly ahead of EJP before that. Because EJP wasn't having that great in episode 2. I think he was on quite a bad seed for Jedi Battle. But yeah, after that Dooku skip miss, then yeah, EJP taken ahead. And then it just kept getting worse for Charles. Like, he lost his helmet in Princess after the turnstile room, kind of like Wazip. It's just everything just going against him. But at the top between Daime and EJP, it was closing the gap a little bit. DSC and Rebel Attack. I think EJP then managed, out of Rebel Attack, managed to get 2 seconds ahead, which I know that messed up some channel point predictions for some people. I don't know who. I'm not going to name any names, but I think some people lost a lot of channel points there. Some people gained a ton. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good thing it didn't carry on happening throughout that race for the second half of predictions.
Yeah. Good thing I stuck with my guns and picked Daime to win. Right?
Good thing you did. Huh? And then yeah, past that, it kind of flip flopped a little bit between the top two. Between episode 6, even into 3, it kept flipping a little bit. Like, it was so close. I think at Echo Base, it was literally 1 second. TJP slightly ahead. Going into Falcon Flight, lots of things could change, but they both had really bad boulders. And I'm somewhat of an expert on bad boulders at this point. So I know a bad one when I see it. Although they certainly had a lot better than what I had. I think it was about 4 minutes each. Like, so not too great for them there. And then, yes, that is my cat appearing on the screen, if you see. She's helping out here. And then I think it was into Dagobah. That's when the gap kind of started to widen between Daime and EJP. It was the opposite of week 1, where the founder of the strat managed to capitalize on the other person's mishap. It's now the other way around. EJP losing a bit on DBS. And yeah, it just kept on going there. CCT, he just couldn't get that panel fly with the R2. Like, I think he missed getting onto even the panel like 5 times, which I think that's due to probably missing DBS, just like getting it in his own head. Maybe he was watching the stream a little bit, knew Daime was so close. I don't know. Leading to EJP going out in week 4 with a 2:23, which is crazy. That's the kind of time that gets you kicked out of the tournament. Like, I looked back to last year to see the similar times in week 4, and week 4 last year you qualified to the top 8 with a 2:23.07, which is 2 seconds slower than what EJP had going out of the tournament with that, which just really shows the level of running this year. I know there's a couple of extra top runners compared to last year, but still, it's everyone's got so good. But yeah, I'm sure EJP's a little sad about that, because the previous week he was getting a 220 probably, like if he didn't mess up best spin, and then going out this week, we know he has the potential of being a lot better than that, but it didn't quite line up for him this tournament. But surely I hope we'll see him put that PB down a bit more soon. And then Daime has to be happy with the return to form. He was only 22 seconds off of his PB in that run, and like after the last 2 weeks where he didn't put up great times. Let's be honest. Like
Mhm.
it was a 25 and a 28. Like the 28 could have been chalked up to he was on a foreign setup to him. He hard locked. Okay, yeah, but he's bounced back. 222, nearly getting the leapfrog over Colton, which would have put him in a great position for the rest of the tournament, like being outside the elimination round. But I'm sure he's just happy to survive after a couple of not so great weeks there.
Mhm.
So yeah, but with Charles, I didn't mention him after a little bit. He did his laptop did, I think it was overheating. He was overheating Carcoon, which is a real shame. Not a great time for this to happen in the middle of a race. Um, but he was already like 2 minutes behind the others, so thankfully it didn't interfere with the main race. I think you told me before the key is BPT was already above what like EJP man got in the end, so
Yeah.
it didn't interfere with the race, but like it's still a bit crushing for that to happen in your last race, like in the tournament, like that makes you go out and supposedly a retirement. I don't know. Do we trust that? Uh, every time
I don't
someone
know.
says they retire, I'm sure he'll be back next year. But I think he did a run like a day or two afterwards with a 221 30 odd, and that's incredible. Like he was in the LCQ with me, like like right before,
Hey, just goes to
and
show you could be putting up 221s in no time.
I I don't know about that one. His sob was already insane, but yeah, a shame for him, but he got a PB straight after the tournament, and yeah, he went still pretty far. I think did his under hit as well to the
Charizard's, yeah,
predictions.
Charizard's did.
Yeah, so that is an overperformance compared to what people like were putting as the
Mhm.
predictions. So he's still got to be decently happy. Not the way you want to go out, but yeah,
Mhm.
happy for that. And then so crushed for EJP there. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll start yapping about the race as well because I guess I'll touch on Charizite and EJP then first in my reaction to that because they're obviously eliminated from the tournament. Charizite, it's like a little bittersweet because right he gets out, there's technical errors. It was just like a really bad run for Charizite, which just sucks and he's out of the tournament. But he gets that kind of on his retirement stream, that 221. It almost feels like you know what the ladder is kind of paid off because he's able to play and practice so much, and then end off with the two end off. We'll say we don't know for sure
Yeah, yeah.
retirement, but you know, get a 221 right before taking at least a break, or at least a prolonged break, which is really good for him. So I feel like even though he's out, I'm sure he's still happy where he's at in the game because I mean I need to check the leaderboards because a 221 now almost is like I don't even think that's top 10, but maybe it is.
It's
Probably not.
14th, I think.
14th. Jeez, like that's crazy. How the level has changed, but obviously Charizard very happy with that time. I think he posted a picture of himself with the live split. He seemed pretty happy with the time. I imagine that's a big PB for him, so he's gonna be happy with it. And then EJP man, it's not bittersweet. It's only bitter. And I'm as a EJP man believer myself. I'm so like tragic, like such a tragedy. And it's not this race. Like I think Daime fully deserved to win this race. I think it's the fact that EJP man is in this race when he was like in Bespin, only two skips, like right, it's box slip and bridge skip at that point, away from getting a mid to low 220 huge PB, and then suddenly he's looking like a top 8 like threat, like he's on the outside, and now maybe he's like threatening to get into top 8 potentially. And one mishap there causes not only a demotion but now elimination. It's like what could have been with EJP men in this tournament. And obviously, like you mentioned, I hope that he just continues, doing runs after the tournament because we all clearly see that he can just break through with a big PV. It was right there during ladder league, and I mean he already has broken through in a sense, but he can break through even more. So I'm really hoping that he continues after the tournament. It's so heartbreaking to see him out in 14th. I don't think anyone really like anticipated it being getting out this early. I think it's mainly because the mellow leapfrog changed so much, right? Suddenly there's a bottom rung matchup with like three really solid competitors, and Mello, who's supposed to get out weeks ago, he's suddenly in rung three in week four. So it changes a lot. And I mean, it's not like it's like Melo's fault. It sucks that, but like Melo's played really well to get in that position in the first place, so you can't even blame Melo. Um, but yeah, so to touch on EJ Pan and Charizard, unfortunate endings to the tournament. Charizard gets the nice little PB after, but I guess to talk about Daime, because he's been someone this tournament who like hasn't really had the best tournament. Like, right, you mentioned last week different setups and a hard lock, so I don't really fault him too much for that time. But he hasn't really put up anything great this tournament, and a 220, 227. I think in his eyes won't even be that great, but ultimately it is 20 seconds off his PB, and he performed well when he needed to. And I think if anything, that run clearly showed that he does have the potential to, put up good times in the tournament. And he's not gonna go out with a whimper this tournament. He's gonna fight to the end, and already surviving the elimination run once, almost leapfrogging, not quite. But now he's gonna be in a tough matchup next week where he's gonna have to put up like a similar time to that, probably better, to be able to stay in the ladder. So Daime, but still impressive that he was able to bring this match home, especially against EJP Man, who's been running really, really well. Um, I keep wanting to like talk about the next week's predictions, but I have a specific segment for that. So without further ado, I'll move us on to the power rankings, and then we can start talking about those predictions for the next week. Um, Let me quickly transition over. So I will only briefly flash this page because there's only one runner on it now. But we'll start off with the bottom page, which now the only real difference now is you have Charizard and EJP Man going out of the tournament here. EJP Man obviously drops a couple spots since I definitely didn't anticipate that happening. And Mello is 13th in the power rankings when I think I would have to go back to the first video to see where I had initially rated, but probably like 18th, maybe even 19th. Let's just say 18th for now or 17th. But he's been moving up the entire ladder, deservedly so. But I guess before I move on to the next page, I would ask you like, who do you think is in this? I think we both kind of agree this is probably where Mello should be. I just where his PB's at. Everyone else
Yeah.
has like pretty much significantly better PB, so I won't even bother asking you about this one. And it's not like a hit on Mello. It's just like I think that other runners have such high quality. Uh, and then now I'll go to the next page, which there is a lot of debate in this section on where things go. And as you can see, look at all the movement that happened just in the last week. I have Daime at my 12, which I think is a pretty reasonable spot in my mind for him. Wazip I have falling below Colton. I think it's just a simple reaction to what has happened this week. Like I mentioned before, the power rankings are very recency bias, and they only they change so much based on that recency bias. So putting Colton a little bit above Wazip, but once again, these can flip every single week. Laser obviously with another time that I didn't like this week, so I'm putting him below Justin. But I'm not gonna it was still 221. Still, I think he's got that gap over Colton and Wazip. And then I have Justin sitting there at the 8. I'm not gonna put him above myself just because 220-20, 219-21. I think a full minute actually. But Justin definitely in a decent spot. Before I guess I touch on the other ones, I wanted to ask you this entire page. I guess would you switch? Or I guess what is your order for this entire page?
Yeah, I definitely put Daime down there too. Like he's been showing well, his PB's a 222, which is worse than all the others, and he's not beaten that PB. That's been his PB for months and months and months. Like it's not like he's been getting on these paces and being it, but yeah, I definitely keep him down there. Like he's shown now that he can pace his PB into early one of these no resets. So he definitely could, but I think especially with the Wazzup PB today, it puts a 220 in, so he definitely should be ahead. And then yeah, Colton, I think he goes there because he has the potential to be faster than Wazzup, but he's not putting in too many perfect runs, like close to his PB, but it's still slightly better than Wazzup. I think his average is like a little bit, like he's like one place above in the average. And then Laser and Wisu, but these are the ones that you could probably interchange the most, I feel like. Because Laser has put in faster times in this ladder so far, but then he's also put in some not quite as fast ones. While Super has been like putting these consistent 220s, and we know he's definitely easily capable of a 218 now. He's finally got his PB to there. I think maybe Laser just like he just did so good in week 1 and 2. Although I think he did have some bad episode ones there, so he's definitely capable of a 218 too. But no, I'd probably agree with that. I don't know. It's such a 50-50 that with Justin Laser. I'd probably agree with that. And then you above them. I do think you are just above. Like, it's not even that much of a question. Like, you just are. Um, but of course, it depends on the day with the actual races. But in the power rankings, I think that fits. Yeah.
Sweet. And then I will move on to what is also almost a filled up page here on the top side of things. Obviously, ZAC locking in that 4 seed. So he's, and I mentioned this in past recaps, and I might feel like I have to mention it again because I got into a debate about someone was not, or like offline. But I'm not going to be switching any of the ranks of the people who qualify simply just because I can't like just, it's about the racing ability, and I just can't justify like changing anyone based on like their PBs. Like, right, maybe you could have moved Evan up because he got record, but now Dragon got it, and everyone would be moving, and it's like, okay, well now I'm using it on evidence that's outside of ladder league, and you do well. I can use that a bit, but I'd like to keep it within ladder league as much as possible. Obviously, you still use like summer best and stuff, and I think this is kind of why I have the ranking this way with Jared now being above Baricco. It's just been two performance, and I guess I'll justify they're both above me. I think because of that ceiling they have of theirs, and they've shown that they've got two. Bricko's the best time of the tournament. Jared has like the second best time of the tournament, or I might. I think he does have the second best time of the tournament. Dragon's like a 37 or 27 in the 217 range.
Yes. Yeah. You got 33.
Yeah,
Jared
yeah.
did.
So Jared, second best time. They have that ceiling over me, which yes, that they've seen those bad races, but I can see those bad races too. We've seen, and their better races are just better than my good races. So that's the reason I have them above myself. And then I switched Bricko down below Jared this week, just because. Well, not only did Bricko beat him head to head, but it was just Bricko overall was struggling this week, and Jared pretty much was always kind of saving time to him and converting on every Bricko mistake. And Jared didn't have the best run either, but I would say that currently he's in the top rung, chance to qualify. I think, this is going to be his best chance. Obviously he could get better chances down the line, but this is obviously a really good chance. He doesn't have Bricko in the top rung to compete with right now. So I think Jared's in a good spot, and I think, his 219.44 isn't the best time, but given his ceiling, I think he's the, best right now remaining in the ladder in terms of racing. Uh, and I guess I'll ask you, would you flip these two?
It's another tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Like beforehand, I was thinking, yeah, like I still very much believe in Bricko. Like I feel like Jared is more prone to just like having just a bad race, but it's 2 in a row now for Bricko. So yeah, it's a tough one. But like Bricko did get a 217, then a 218, whereas I think Jared has he only had one. No, he has also had two sub 220s, but one was barely. So I'd probably still stick with Bricko ahead, but like, of course, he can't even qualify this week. He's down in rank 2, which is so sad for him. Maybe he'll produce another 217.03, which was so unfortunate that he was in rank 2 for that one and not in rank 1. Yeah, I'd probably maybe still stick Bricko ahead. Like, if it's 3 runs in a row, he does bad. Okay, yeah, something's wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd maybe stick Bricko still ahead. Like, it's very, very close.
Yeah, and I think for Bricko, this is like I mentioned that bounce back opportunity this week. He is in rung two. I think it's more interesting what time he gets rather than the result of the race. Right? He's I think the big favorite to win, but even if he doesn't win, he gets second. He probably won't get leapfrogged. I am curious like what time he will get, because if it's another bad time, then it's like, right, you mentioned pretty big cause for concern. But if it's a good time, and like I think it's a good opportunity for him to get a good time. I think he's right back up there. I mean, we'll see what Jared does in the top rung, obviously, but I think Bricko would be definitely the best player remaining in the tournament if he's able to put together a really solid time like that 217, 218 that he's shown us that he could do already. And I guess without further ado, we will start with our predictions. Let me pull it up. And I guess for this segment, I kind of go bottom up. I flip it from like top bottom on the results, and then the predictions I go bottom top. So I guess I'll start with rung three, which is actually tomorrow. I think all these matches are going to be during the weekday. I'm not gonna like announce anything officially, but we might get a sneaky week six match a little earlier than anticipated, according to the calendar. But for week five at least, all these matches are gonna be what, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kind of goes up from bottom to top. We'll see rung three tomorrow, rung two Wednesday, and then rung one on Thursday. But starting with rung three, was it Mello Daime? It's an interesting match. Like obviously, Mello's in here again, where it's like another situation where it's like just there is no pressure for Mello. Just try to get your best run you can. Maybe if he ends on three PBs in a row and then gets out, full respect to him. That's like an insane way of going out. And then you have Daime and Wazip, who I think this will be like that's going to be kind of the race to look out for in this one. Where Daime, I think Wazip goes in as the favorite for sure. But Daime, with this last week time, it's better than Wazip's by I think almost a minute. Let me look real quick. A little less than a minute. So like clearly Daime can compete with Wazip, but right, that was kind of a Wazip low week for him, and Daime kind of had his best week at the tournament. So I think for Daime, to compete, he's gonna have to have another time like that. And then it's up. I think it's complete. This is like the race is in Wazip's hands, and it's like what will he do with it? I actually just talked to him about pressure last night. That is not supposed to Wazip. I know you're probably gonna listen to this at some point, but that's not supposed to like put pressure on you. But it is like I just feel like you have the control in the match. Like if you play well, you're gonna win. Probably because you never know with Daime because I think Daime's got good potential. But like you mentioned, like he hasn't really like paced his PB or had many PB attempts there. He doesn't really do many PB attempts, at least that what I'm seeing. So I think Wazip definitely has control in this race, and I think I'm gonna believe in the person who has the control here. I'm gonna go Wazip to win, and I mean it could put like a cheeky Mello second, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I think Mello will have like a solid run, maybe PB, maybe not, but I think Daime will put up a decent enough time to beat Mello. So I'm gonna go the 1-2-3 here with Wazip, Daime, and Mello, which I think is probably like the most common outcome. And I'll throw it over to you to what you think is gonna happen here as well.
Yeah, I got the same,
Mm-hmm.
but I do want to point out that Wazup's and Daime's ladder PB is only 2 seconds between them. Like, it's still very close. I know Wazup hasn't had, let's say, a good run in any of these races yet for what he'd want, but it's still very close there. But yeah, I'd still definitely put Wazup ahead. Like he's expected to win. And then yeah, as much as I'm a believer in Mello now with all these great performances in a row, I don't really see it. I definitely could see him beat Daime. Like if you look at several of the weeks that Daime's had, Mello's been ahead in a couple of them. So, but yeah, no, it should
Yeah,
be
fair
Daime
enough.
second.
Wait, let me check the points real quick. Let me check the points real quick.
Oh yeah, how high is it this time?
Oh wait, it's at the top. Okay, never mind. I switch it. Melo's gonna win, guys. Just kidding. Okay. The
Not
12
quite as high
points
as the.
does look enticing. Actually, while we're here, I guess I kind of want to look. I haven't really seen the points this week. I'm surprised at how big of a favorite Burko is. I mean, it's not like it's a surprise, but it's not right because Burko is really good, and I think he like Laser has been performing well. Even though Burko hasn't, that ceiling is way too high. And then was it being actually I'm surprised that it is as close as it is here. But like you mentioned, right, Diamond's ladder PB is right up there with Wazip's, and Wazip hasn't put up that good performance in ladder league yet. So that's fair enough. And then I think the bottom rung, or the not it's not the bottom rung, it's the last race. I think it's totally valid for Jared to be the slight favorite. And then you have just like three really close times here. Like I think anyone can win this match. I think literally the entire match can go any way. That will be really interesting. I'm starting to talk about all the matches now, but I guess I just wanted to look at the favorites and the points, and I got way too into it. We'll switch gears, go back to the predictions. Rung two, which this is like, did you anticipate Bricko, Laser, Colton ever happening in the ladder? Because I did. This is a very very interesting match.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially this far along, like Bricker doing
exactly.
that.
Week five, and Bricko was like can't even qualify week five. It's like and Burko had three chances in a row, which kind of blows that he wasn't able to get right. Those are all very difficult. races, but wasn't able to come out on top in any of them. Excuse me. Um, but I think prediction wise here, oh man, it's like I think we were kind of talking before that we both go for the like we generally both go for the favorites in this, and it kind of works. And
It
I
does.
really, as much as I want to go like, oh, let's go laser here, let's mix it up. I can't see, like I think this is a perfect bounce back opportunity for Brico, and I think it's going to be that same situation with Jared and Wazip where they had those 2 bad weeks in a row to start, then they had a good bounce back race. I can't see it like where Brico just has a third bad performance in a row. Or at least where if he does have a bad performance, I think he still is able to edge out Laser because Laser has been struggling as well. So I think I'm gonna go Brico to win. In terms of second place, it's actually a little bit more interesting than it looks. I think it's a matter of do you believe that Colton will finally have that run that, breaks through, and then Laser kind of at the same time also has to have kind of a not so great run. Mm, I really want to get interesting with this one, but I'm sorry, Colton, I can't. I think I'm gonna go with pretty much the favorite outcome here, which is gonna be Brico, Laser, Colton. It's really like Colton hasn't proved it yet, and Laser has proved it twice. Is kind of my reasoning. Even though they have like similar PVs, and you know, Colton just hasn't put it up yet, and Laser has twice. So I'll throw it over to you. I feel like you might have a similar thought on this match.
Yeah, definitely. Because like Brico, he has to be the clear favorite here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just on paper is so much better. But of course, maybe some of these previous weeks keeps it up. I don't know. So either Laser and Colton could capitalize on that. Like it could technically go either way. Like we don't have like a mellow where you don't really see a world at all where it happens. It could happen for any of these, but I definitely have to keep Brico number one. And yeah, Colton's really not been showing it. Like even like a bad run by Laser last week beats all of Colton's runs so far.
Mm.
So uh, I definitely have to keep Laser second, Colton third. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't really
fair
see
enough.
that way it goes
I
another
I I,
year.
th- I it's hard not to pick the results that we did in the first 2 weeks. You have to kind of take a big leap, and I've done that a couple of times this ladder league, and I haven't really been right on any of them. A couple of the big leaps. But I guess yeah. Thankfully, I think we have a top match that can really be like anyone. You could pick any one of the 3 runners here in the top match. And once again, I'm going back to my old faithful of I believe in myself. So I don't think I'm like no matter how much I believe in these other runners and like think they're better than me or whatnot, I'm gonna pick myself just because I don't want to pick someone else and then I win the race and I'm like where's my points? But at the same time I do want to believe myself, so I'm gonna pick myself to win this race. But once again, I think it's gonna be a race that's gonna be decided by like very fine margins. I think the winner of this race might have to get a 218 to win because like I think in my past races, the ones that I've won I've gotten 219s and comfortably won every single one. A 219 in this one, not like it might not comfortably win, it might not win at all. So I think it's gonna take a 218 this race to win, but I think I'm totally capable of that. I know like I haven't put it up in the ladder yet, but I think personally I've seen it where it's just like I'm right there one stupid mistake away from getting a 218 in the ladder, which I think is totally achievable. I think I could PB in the ladder, but that's a whole other discussion that I don't want to get down the rabbit hole. And so I'm going to pick myself anyways. I'm going to stop trying to justify it. In terms of second place this race, I'm actually, this is like, I'm basing this off of, let's just say, historical trends. When me and Justin match up, there's never, like, not a race where it's not close, unless you have to discount Rung 1 this year when he was basically derusting, and then you have to discount one from a very far away turn where he soft locked in Hoth, basically. So discounting those two, I think me and Justin have always had close races, and I think that's going to be no different this time around. Like I think last time we were 3 seconds apart. I think he's going to get second here, and I think this is going to be just one of those Jared off weeks. And I think me and Justin are going to put up good times. I don't know how far Jared will be behind because once again, I think Jared's in a position where he will either win the race or get last. I think Jared's just that type of runner where he could be on a good run and make it so it's basically impossible for me and Justin to win, or he's just going to be on a not so good run and then suddenly he's not even like favored in the match. So I think I'm gonna go Justin second here and Jared third, which is I think a not so popular pick on the matchup. But I'll throw it over to you, and I think you'll have an interesting opinion on this one because I think it's a crapshoot here.
Yeah, it's as you said, it can go any way. It's so hard to go. I'm not even decided myself yet, like how this is gonna go. Of course, I think it's a third matchup between you and Justin this
Mm.
tournament already, and you have beaten him both times before. One very very close, but you have beaten him both times. Can you make it 3 for 3? Very possible. Um, like I have actually bet on you like every single race other than when you were against Zach. So I have been a see no believer. Do
So
I
I've given you
continue the
about the
streak?
same as Zach. I've given you that 50% return.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I run yeah, run 1 and 2 in the first couple of weeks was it wasn't going well. Um, so yeah, it's so hard to call. I do think Justin will probably lose this one. Um, but do I stay being see not believer or Jared? Provided
But
Jared doesn't have any crashes this time. He's currently
that's
at a
what
50% record. He's crashed twice. Yeah.
I'll say. Don't pick it.
I'm
Don't feel any pressure to pick me just because I'm
no,
here.
of course, yeah. No, so I've been paid off beforehand. Got to pick Cena.
Yeah, Cino's gonna win. Don't ask me about it.
Not even close. 216 new world records, and others won't even finish. No, I might. I think I might pick Jared actually.
Hmm.
I'm,
Yeah, I
I'm
think that's totally
changing,
fair.
changing up. Yeah, because he had to pre-record last time. Crash might have completely thrown him off. And I think one of the other times he had quite a bad run, it was Bespin completely messed it up as well. So I think he minimum gets a 219 here. And very, very possible to get a 218. Though I don't think he's like, has he had too many 218s? Because his former world record, that was his PB for like a year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Jared's such a like. There's a reason he has 11,000 attempts. He resets so often. It's like you don't get those completed runs to judge him off of that that often. He had that PB for so long. Um,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to tell.
It's very, very hard to tell. I think as of this second, I'd probably go Jared, but he very much could change before the race, like thinking about it. So I'd go Jared, you, Justin, currently.
And I guess the next question begs because there's only one possible leapfrog this week is when we have the same results for rung 2 and rung 3. Is that do you think that Wazip will end up leapfrogging Laser? I guess I'll throw it over to you first.
I don't think it's going to happen. Of course, there's every chance if he gets similar to run to his PB, which I think he lost like a bunch of episode 6 as well. Like he could get 219. Like it's very much possible, but like can he get it in a tournament? He's not shown it yet, but he very much can. And with Laser and Colton, they've both had some off games. So if Bricker wins there, he only has to beat second there. So I think it's very much possible, but I don't see it happening.
I'm gonna take the interesting opinion of the leapfrog actually happening here. I think combined with what he just did today, where I think the match is tomorrow, right? Laser, I don't actually know. He might have practiced today. I don't like stalk the run.gg, so I don't know exactly what Laser's been doing today. But Wasip got a PB, and I know he's been streaming for a while today. Got a PB, has got a lot of playtime under his belt today, and tomorrow I think he rides that momentum into like a really good race tomorrow. And Laser, I know like he's kind of like going to be leaving for a trip soon, so he's got to get his matches in, and then suddenly, things have to get crammed. Maybe he gets a little flustered from that. So I actually think Wazip
Inside
is
the
going to put
launch.
up I think he'll put up a 220, and I think it will be just good enough to leapfrog. I think Laser might also put up a 220, but I think Wazip is just going to be a little bit better. So I'm going to take Wazip for the leapfrog, and I guess just like I'll have you fill out a theory bracket as well. But I think we're at the point where we can kind of fill in and look at some scenarios because they're like right in front of us right now. I think before it's a little ridiculous because so many matches, but now it's like we're down to the end of the ladder. So I think it's cool to do some theory scenarios now that we're here. But I mean, just look at like with mine, Jared Laser Colton bottom rung. I'm so sorry, Colton. That is a tough matchup to be in. And then also it's like Jared or Laser could get out of the ladder entirely, which I think Jared has some really good protection in terms of the wild card match by having that 217-33. So I think it would be a bit ridiculous if like he like if he got out here, he wouldn't be out. Like, he would still have a really good chance that like that 50-50 in the wild card match. And well, it's Jared. It probably wouldn't be a 50-50. It would be probably slightly favored toward him, no matter who he plays, unless it was Bricko. But if the wild card match is Jared Bricko, then some madness has happened in the meantime. But I guess in my scenario, I guess what I'll do is I'll go through my remaining theory bracket, and then I'll predict my wildcard match, and then I'll have you go through yours, and I'll kind of click on it as you go, and I'll make sure I'll switch it to this week's prediction for you. But to start with rung 2, I think Jared, whenever he's been in a situation where, it's been on the line for him in ladder league, he's performed and he's done the job. So I think I'm going to go with Jared to win, especially if in this scenario he lost in that top rung the week before. I'm going to go with Jared to win this one. The second and third doesn't technically matter, so I'll go Laser second, Colton third. Maybe it matters for like the final placements, but in the under overs. But that's what I'll go with for that one, and that would actually see Laser out of the ladder early. But you have to be like, hold up, wait, because not only does Laser have like that fourth best average right now, and I guess in this scenario, right, you can erase me from the wild card standings completely. And then if Bricko qualifies, which actually before I mention it, I'm gonna pick Bricko to qualify there. Suddenly, Laser is in the the driver's seat, behind Jared, but he's basically considered. Trying to like think of a scenario. Jared would secure the fastest time. Laser would get the fastest average to get in. So despite Laser getting out here, I think he will still be in that wild card match. And then, well, depending on who qualifies, I guess. I'm gonna go Bricko to qualify here. I think he's been in rung one too many times, and I think he'll have that bounce back week last time to where it's like he's just gonna put up a really good performance in this match, and then go into the final bracket, in a strong fashion. And then second and third, once again, doesn't technically matter here because you both guarantee the last week. I'll go Justin third, Justin second, Wazip third here. Even though it technically doesn't matter, maybe it does matter your times, right? Very much matters what times they get, not placement wise, because average does matter. Maybe they're technically on their fastest run if Brooko's just cruising that race. And then that comes down to a Jared Wazip Justin week 7 in my theory bracket here, which this is a really hard race to pick. And I think, man, as much as I want to pick like a surprise Justin win here, I think I can't discredit Jared right now. I think I'm gonna go Jared to win this, and then I think I'm gonna go Justin loses this one, flip a little flip from the previous week, but I don't think it's enough for Wazip to get into the wild card match. And then I think we have that wild card match that I think is almost inevitable. It feels that way, but it's not. I say it's inevitable, but it's really not, because one different result and it's not going to happen. But a Laser versus Justin wildcard match, I think, is kind of the favorite to happen right now. So I'm gonna put that as my wildcard match, and I'm gonna put Justin to win that. I think my reasoning is more of like a metagame reasoning. It's because Laser is going to be coming, like, he's on a 10-day trip during that time, and the wildcard match would happen after that trip. So it's like, how rusty is he going to be after that trip, And I think Justin's going to do ample preparation for that. So and right, he's been just played 7 straight weeks of ladder league. So I definitely, I'm going to go Justin in the wildcard match. And I guess I'll throw it over to you now. We'll talk about, I guess, the wildcard standings. I know I mentioned to you before we recorded that we would talk about it, but I guess we'll talk about it after you fill out your little theory bracket. So let me get rid of these picks, and then you can kind of work through. And then I think let me flip this to that. Oh, and let me put that. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy that the elimination rung there, because normally I think I've got Laser under and Colton under, so one might not.
Oh no. Well, actually, I think Laser is secured as under at this point. If he
Was it 12? It might be 12 and a half. So as long as he doesn't lose that
wait,
much,
actually,
I think.
hold up. I think it's just wrong because he can't. Yeah, because he's already hit it. He's actually hit his under already, I think, and I think it's just hasn't paid out yet. It should pay out because 12th and 13th are going to be either Wazip, Mello, Daime, which that would be
of course, yes.
The worst position to get is 11th now. So Laser under has hit everyone. So if you pick that, it has hit. It just hasn't registered yet. And actually, speaking of it, Laser has to pay it out. He's the one running the prediction site. So waiting for Laser to pay out his own prediction. But yeah. I'll let you continue on that, because I think no matter what, it's just going to be a crazy like elimination rung week
100%.
6, week 2. It's just like someone really big is going to get out that week. It's just like crazy. Oh wait, sorry. I have a. Oh, sorry. You did not pick a Wazoo Blue Frog.
Okay. Yeah.
That makes
That's
it a little
slightly
bit
better.
less crazy, but still, like Wazoo being in there,
Yeah.
still very crazy.
Yeah. So I want that Colton under to hit, but I think Justin's going to win that one because it was just all the previous
Yeah,
performances.
I think it's hard not to pick Justin that scenario, which is really tough for Colton. So I'm almost talking through your scenario.
It's so good. It's so good.
I'm like it's really tough because Colton and Wazip, like if they somehow were able to get in that week 6 rung 1 match, it's like totally different because you get 2 shots of qualification versus now you just have to beat Justin and the other runner just to even have one chance. So it's like such a big difference. Anyways, that's what happened. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I think coming off the previous week, if they go that way, Wazup will be coming off a win, Colton coming off a loss, and Colton's a momentum runner. Maybe carries that momentum of losing. He's not too happy. Maybe messes up something early in the game, and then his head's out of the game. I think Wazup might win that one because like I think he's past that mental barrier now. Like he's been on these like 221 runs so often, like on his stream, and he keeps dying at the end. I think he's battled his demons now, so I think he's broken
That
past a wall, and
that's such a
he
gracious
might.
way of talking him into elimination here because second is still eliminated. That's such a gracious way of saying
True,
you see
but
him out.
I think he'll be very happy winning against Colton. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
he'll have that to talk about for the next year until next ladder league.
And then at
Because
the end,
yeah, I
right,
beat
and in the eliminated column, it would actually put his name above Colton. So yeah,
exactly that's bragging rights. You
yeah.
want that. Uh, I, I still think it wasn't could it was he could even like win that one like but no I'd keep it that way, and then in rung 1 another pretty tough one to call. Do I go Brick or you to win that?
And lasers in the match
Hmm.
too.
I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel
That's
like
fair enough.
you two are slightly above.
Mhm.
Especially as you said about he's on a trip
Yeah, that
as
is
well.
true. And this would be like
So
a kind of impromptu right before.
yeah, like I know he doesn't do many runs, so it's not like he'll that will do too much for him because like his wasn't his like first run of the year was his week 1, and he got 219. So
I think he had done
it's
some like random one-off races weeks prior,
oh
but they
yeah,
weren't even like real close. They weren't even remotely close.
exactly. So I don't think he needs to do a bunch of attempts to be able to get up to that level. But I know he does. I'm pretty sure he likes his episode RTAs, so
Hmm.
he might be able to squeeze a couple of those into the practice right before it. But I still think he comes out last that one, and then Brico and you. Like it all depends on the previous performances again.
I like how it
I
somehow
I
autofills me to win this. Like, I don't know. Why does it do that?
yeah, it's favoring you. And I think I'd have to go for Brico. He's just
Mhm.
217 early in there. Like he's such a high level runner that I think he'll be back into the rung 1. He'll be back with vengeance, trying to get through. And then week 7. I think you got that one. I think you got that one on lock. Finally letting you through to the
Finally in
you would have a
there, and then it's like, oh, I get to
you
play E Roadhouse. How fun!
recently got a record. I mean, what's worse? Because you put yourself to win in week 5 and you're against ZAC. Like,
Yeah, I
which is
know.
worse, ZAC or Evan?
It's like, oh my gosh, which Titan do you want to go up against? But obviously, I would like to get in earlier than later. Just because that
Yeah,
wildcard match is definitely something I want to avoid. Even though I feel like in my mind I've basically secured that. Even if I mean, I have like the third fastest time, but it's like, and I have the fastest average. So it just feels like, surely I'll at least make it. But I don't want to be in it. At all
no,
costs.
it won't be a fun one to be in because like, especially it's a 1v1. If you
Yeah,
mess up Godfrey, okay, your race is over.
yeah,
Like, unless the other
GG.
one also does it. Like, of course, there can be some coming back, but at that level,
Hmm.
one massive mistake like that can easily send you home. And even, oh, you finally win that. Oh, you got dragon. Okay. So
Yes.
what a
Not
fun one.
fun.
Um, but yeah, the rest of this, I might put Laser second, like because then he would have been back from his trip for a little while. Might be able to go
Hmm.
back into sub 220s. Yeah, I think I'll put it that way around.
And I guess what
So
sort of
who'd
wild card match to predict with all this ladder? It will be Laser
who'd
Wii Super, or will there be a surprise?
I, it looks like everything's pointing that direction. I think was it Anonymous put like a prediction of like who doesn't make the top eight, and it was like the same percentage,
Hmm.
Laser and Justin. Like it was everyone's thinking it's going to gear up towards them. Of course, there could be a surprise. Maybe Jared doesn't make it earlier, and maybe Bricko doesn't, and then it puts one of them in the wild card, and like whoever's the other person, you don't want to be against them.
Yes.
Um, so in most, like, it's looking like it will go towards that direction. Yeah, and then who would win out of those two? I think then Wii Super gets redemption in the wild card match over Laser from the week 7.
That makes sense totally. And I guess now that we have like our theory brackets, I guess I almost instead of like I think we want to look at that top 8 in a second. I will quickly go through the wild card and then I think we'll put a little bit more focus on looking at the top 8 preview because I feel like we kind of have to now that it's like coming down to it. Half the top 8 is filled out. It's just a matter of now then it's actually the fun part now. Now we get to figure out the matchups over the next coming weeks. But in terms of the wild card, someone like Bricko, myself, Jared, I think are basically locked into the match. If there's a disaster, we get out of the ladder somehow. Unless somehow it's me, Bricko, and Jared all getting out, which I don't think that will happen. That would take quite like it would be like a Justin qualification, and then whoever gets second would have to like lose both the top races, and then massive upset. So I'm not even gonna think of that scenario. So yeah, I think me, Bricko, Jared are basically secured to get into that match. And in that same sense that Laser is right there as well, because I guess his average and Justin's average are really close, so that could flip. But and same thing with fastest time, but Laser has a little bit of an edge. It almost feels like even down to Justin, it's like hard to reverse anyone there in the wildcard match. And normally as the ladder goes on, I would normally say fastest average. That's how, someone from the outside is gonna get in. But right now, it's really hard to fix your average. Like a full minute, right? For example, this week I had a 219 with 21, and my average going in was a 220.26. I only improved it by 16 seconds with that average. Like it would take like for Colton or Wazip to take a full minute off their average, it would take a phenomenal run, which is definitely possible. And right there, like there's still 3 weeks of play left, so it could happen. But I almost feel like it's a more realistic path that someone like a Wazip or Colton gets like that 219 that they've been looking for in that ladder. Like Colton has already seen that in PB attempts, and Wazip's out at 220. And I know Justin and Laser will definitely have a good chance at improving their fastest time. But right now, it seems like maybe that path is a fluky, like really good run. But I don't want to call it fluky, but like a really good run by Colton or Wazip is their way into that wild card match. His average, oh, I'm not saying it's over for the average, but I feel like it's almost harder now. I guess I'll ask you, do you like kind of agree that like for someone like Colton Wazip, unless you have someone else on the radar that might sneak in as the wild card, like do you think they have a better chance through fastest time or fastest average at this point?
It's got to be fastest time because yeah, the average is it's so hard to whittle away that now. You've done 4 runs, like one extra run, even if it's like a minute faster, well, that's barely going to go down. Um, so unless you have like several weeks of insane runs, which then you'd probably be making the top 8 from that if you have that good of runs. Um, yeah, so anyone on the outside of the top 5 currently in the fastest average and fastest time, it's got to be fastest time, like getting a 219.
Yeah, I guess the unfortunate part about that is like fastest time is prioritized first. So then it's like someone who like a Laser, a Justin, because I think what Colton and Wazip would have to do is get a fastest time faster than Laser, because they would get pulled first, right? It would be like a Laser gets pulled, and then it would go down. I don't know if the background noise is being be heard right now, but not so happy sister right now. But it wouldn't be the first time I think she's been on the recap in the background, but um but yeah, right. They're gonna have to jump Laser and Justin in that, but it seems more possible than improving your average by like more than a minute, and then Justin and Laser. I guess there's right the factor Justin Laser's averages could get worse, but look at their averages compared to what I think they're gonna be getting. I think if anything they're gonna go up, you know. So it almost feels very very tough for Colton and Wazip to get the average at this point, even though that seemed like their path the whole way. They've been like solidifying their average right at where it is. They haven't gotten that breakthrough race. Um, I guess that'll be kind of like the segment there, and I'll take us to our top 8. Oh gosh, maybe the mic is not picking it up. I actually don't know.
I can't hear it. So
Okay,
I
good,
don't know.
good, good. So if you can't hear it, I don't, because I think desktop audio is coming through, but she's not happy. I'll put it that way. Um, as we look into the final bracket, we have we can see those theoretical semifinal matchups with our top runners here. You see like Dragon, ZAC, Anorak, Evan. And then obviously, like I said, this is kind of the fun part where you get to fill it out. Where now it's like, right, ZAC is guaranteed to either play against myself, Justin, or Jared. And I'm much like thinking up to that 4-5 matchup. Like obviously ZAC's gonna be favored, but I think for sure it's just gonna be like a good matchup. I don't think there's gonna be a top 8 matchup that's like not a good matchup this year. Like I think not even it almost like I would say in previous years, right? But then you saw Frost Dragon, where it's like that wasn't gonna be a good matchup, and then Dragon won, which is kind of funny. Now Dragon's the 1 seed this year. He was the 8 seed last year. Like season 1, I guess the Hamster was the 8 seed, which is like a really big surprise, and then ZAC kind of just wiped the floor, and then I think I don't know who the 7 seed was. No, that was Jared actually. It was Ginger versus Jared, but that was a weird scenario where Ginger hadn't played after qualification. I'm going down way too big of a rabbit hole, but
that's pre me, so I have no idea.
Yeah. I guess I'll explain. Ginger ended up not playing at all after he qualified, and then his top 8 race was just like, oh, I'm back after not playing after qualifying, and then Jared dominated. It wasn't even dominated. Jared didn't have a good run either, but ended up pulling off the upset because Ginger was just so out of practice. But my whole point is there's just going to be good matchups across the board, and I guess I'll ask you, like, and it's hard to say because right, you haven't been in this environment. I haven't been in this environment. How do you think the in-person like effect is going to take like on the top 8 matches? Because like, do you think it's more likely that an upset happens, or do you think like more likely that it stays, status quo, I guess I should say, where the better runners win?
It's a weird one because no one's really played in that situation. Like the closest that anyone probably has is like Justin playing a GDQ or something with a large crowd, like having people watch you like right there. That's probably about the closest anyone's got there. So it's a really tough to call. Maybe like the person that's going to be most out of their comfort zone is Dragon. Completely different country, like halfway across the world. How's he going to adapt to that? I have no idea. Like, because it's also going to be like, well, it's different computers everyone's going to be on. So
Yeah, different setups completely for everyone.
yeah,
I mean, I guess people will be able to bring whatever keyboard they use, whatever controllers they use, so that will help. But obviously, yeah, it's gonna be different chair, different setup. I think Dragon was talking about how he has like a specific height that he likes to play at, and I like that too. It's like I like a kind of specific height. It feels natural where you're putting your controllers, because I guess I don't know how you play. Some people play with like their controllers resting on their lap, or like on their leg, I should say. I have it like on, like physically on the desk, so it's like it doesn't move. I guess I should say like I feels like on my leg it's gonna like turn away. It just feels really awkward.
Just slide off or something. Yeah,
But some people do that. But yeah, that in-person aspect just gonna be so interesting. Like, and I guess when you look at these runners, I think like I guess the ideal person to play would be Anorak, just because you have Dragon, ZAC, and Evan who all have 216s. And Anorak's PB, while it isn't like that level, I think Anorak's definitely capable of that. So it almost feels like you're playing still someone of that caliber, but he hasn't reached there yet. So I guess technically I think you'd be the most ideal matchup, but then again, you get that matchup, and let's just say you pull off the win, you're probably meeting Mr. E Roadhouse in the semifinal, and that's not a fun matchup at all. So it's just there's no easy way of winning this tournament.
Exactly. There's no easy matches. Like in previous years there might have been, oh, there's one person that's there that's easy, but I feel like everyone's so good at the moment that it's impossible to call, especially with like so many like one try tricks. If you
Hmm.
don't get it, they get it. Well, that could determine so
Yeah, like
much.
God Rod is gonna play such a big factor in this. Like, I would hope that everyone, no one has that backwards disaster. I'm sure it'll happen where someone misses one of the lap skips and loses like 30 seconds, which does happen, but 30 seconds I think is like definitely like it's a sucky way to start, but you can make it up. Uh, but you would just have to hope that no, like if there's one of those backwards disasters, restart level, it's kind of match over. I'm trying to remember last year, even like it happened to Frost and he still was kind of, and then the feed disaster happened to him, so it was like it was kind of hard to tell. Like, okay, is this over after pod race? But even with that, it was like Frost was almost out of it, and that was the biggest discrepancy. So it's like if this happens in any of these matches, it's just like, and right, you're on a different setup, right? I'm sure how much I think we're allowing 2.5 hours of prep time of practice time before the match. So like it is like ultimately like a production. People are trying to run stuff, so we don't want people to gain an unfair advantage by like overly practicing in downtime. Like so someone's had 10-hour practice on the setup and one person does like 2 hours, or less. So 2.5 hours before your match is kind of the set thing. It's like how much time of that is going to be spent doing God Fraud, and I'm almost debating myself. Yeah, I I'm like, how much of that do I want to spend on God Fraud? Do I want to just rip a no reset? Maybe that's the strap. Probably not, but I was almost considering that for a moment. But yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up. I think uh I'll briefly look at it. Predictions. Congrats on getting fourth right now. Still a lot to
Somehow,
go, but
yeah.
top four out of everyone. I'm sitting in seventh. I think I've fallen a little bit, but I'm still up
I
there.
think
I
I
think.
overtook you the last week because of a couple of
Oh
placements.
yeah, the placements are coming in. I think. Oh, I think we'll both gain 5 points once this laser
The laser, yeah.
under comes in, which that did finish out this week. But yeah, I think it's a good spot for both of us in predictions, considering there's like multiple pages of people here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'll wrap up the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and thank you Wytew for making another great recap. This one
It's
ended up
all
being an
good.
hour 30, so you know,
It's not the longest.
yeah,
I feel like
it's
the others were like an hour and 20.
yeah. So somehow, even though there's less matches, I guess now we're talking top eight stuff, but which is going to be a common theme in the upcoming recaps. But another great one. So thank you so much, guys, for watching again, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.